Hey, Jasen Rice from Lotpop. This is another LotParty episode. Again, LotParty shows all about what you can do on your virtual lot to stir things up, drive more traffic, get more exposure on your inventory, be better in process management. And part of the show is we do a weekly featured dealer of the week. This is Champ Automotive Group out of Denver, Colorado. They do a phenomenal job. I literally, over the decades, have been into probably over 1,000 dealerships over those years, and they're definitely one of the top dealers, probably top 3 dealers I've been into across the country. They run a great operation at their Honda, BMW store, one price operation too. They do a phenomenal job. If you'd like to see your plate up there and mentioned in the show, send us your plate. Address is at lotpop.com. Just go to contact us. Again, all these episodes are on iTunes. Go to LotParty or Lotpop either on iTunes and or SoundCloud if you happen to have a Droid device. Also go to YouTube, and all the shows are uploaded at Lotpop channel on YouTube, and also the Auto Dealer Live network also has all our episodes. But in this episode, we're going into October, November, and December, which is sometimes those slower months in a lot of markets. And some dealers, end up waiting. If their inventory's aging up, they'll end up waiting until the selling season, January, February, March, to help clean up their inventory. But don't wait then to clean up your inventory. Use those months to be profitable, to make some good growth. So use these months to get better processes in inventory management and to clean up that inventory. So when we do go into bigger selling season, January, February, March, tax season and stuff, use those months to make money, not to just clear out your aged inventory problems. And so on this episode, a while back, I put 5, actually 6 tips together to help you manage that inventory more effectively and to be able to be more profitable, volume and gross. Our dealers, their average turn is 14 days. Our top dealers' average turns over 20. I know 20 could be a little too fast, and we're trying to build that up for those dealers. But these are the same tips that you can utilize to get the same results, clean up your inventory. So watch these tips. After the tips, Auto Dealer Live is next. Thanks.
I've been able to travel the country and been in thousands of dealerships, and I know the dealerships that I mostly go to that are struggling with gross and volume, it's not because they're cheap pricing their fresh inventory and losing gross that way. The reason is they're pushing out too much aged inventory. And the reason why a car ages is because we lose focus on it, or we tried the hope and change mode. And what I mean by that is we usually will focus on 2 areas as a used car manager because we're so busy wearing all these different hats. One area, when we sit down and manage our used car inventory, is the fresh stuff: photos, price, descriptions, get them online, and we make sure that those are taken care of. The second place, because we're scrambling, that we focus on is our aged inventory and make sure that those things are getting out of there. But what you lose focus of a lot of times is those middle bucket cars, the 20 to 45, 50-day-old cars, because they're no longer on your radar. And a car ages, again, because we lose focus and they end up bleeding through because we're doing that type of pricing, or because we don't want to face the realities of that car and take a hit on it on a fresh inventory. So we put it out there for a little bit longer than we want to and hope that somebody pays too much of it for it, or the market changes. So one of the areas that will help you improve your used car operations is actually tracking and trending out where you're selling your inventory out of. What percentage are going out 0 to 30 and what percentage is going out 60 plus. And here's a chart here of what we do with our dealerships that actually week after week we look at the last 2 weeks of sale rate and look at what percentages we're pushing out. The goals are this: the 0 to 30, you want that. Our top performing stores will push 60-70% of their sales out in the first 30 days. If you can lease that, get up that to 50%, you're doing okay. Then the 60 plus, you want to be pushing out 10% or less. So if you trend and track that out, you're going to know exactly where you're at, and then you're going to make adjustments throughout the week to make sure you're hitting and obtaining those goals. And as again, you can see on this trend, you can see that green line going up. We're pushing out more fresh inventory, and what that does is gives us more gross profit. So again, that's our first tip of 5 on how to improve your used car operations with things that you can control. Thanks. Like I said, this is the second video of 5 video series. In the first video, I went over how you want to track and trend where you're selling your units out of. What percentage are going out 0 to 30, what percentage are going out 60 plus. And every dealership that I go into that struggles with gross and volume, it's not because they cheap sold fresh inventories, because they have too much going out aged. And so the reason why a car ages is we lose focus on it. So the second tip, again, the first one was trending out and figuring out where we're pushing it out, and then we're going to react to it to make those changes, and that's what we're going over here. But the second tip is the reason why it ages is we lose focus. All my dealers actually use vAuto, but there's other systems out there like First Look, AAX, and other pricing tools out there. But when we go into their vAuto, the first place that I go to address inventory is I sort it by last price change. And again, if you go into dealerships that's struggling, or if you look at your own inventory, a lot of times we're going to see cars that haven't had a price change 30, 40, 50 days. Because again, we addressed it day one, we price changed it we put a price on it day one, but because it's not aged yet, we lose focus. So I go in there, sort it by last price change, and any car that hasn't had a price change in 2 weeks, we're going to attack and we're going to look at it and see if we need to make an adjustment. Because in 2 weeks, the market can change. Right now, the market I've seen drop 1 to 3% in that 2 week window. So we're pulling up cars that we changed price 2 weeks ago. We're adjusting it, and we went from 97% to 100% in 2 weeks. So now we're readjusting it back down, and we might be at 97% again. But the market drops 3%, we're dropping 3%. So my tip is to improve your used car operations, to prevent cars from bleeding through, for something that you have total control of. Sort your inventory. Look at the last time you addressed that car and did a price change. If that car is not getting activity after 2 weeks at that price, attack that car and start making changes. So if you go into your inventory, address cars that price every other 2 weeks, attack that inventory, start changing those prices, you'll have less cars bleed through an age. And again, that will increase your used car operation. That will increase the amount of cars going out fresh. Thanks. All right, I'm going to go over the third point of how to improve your used car operations that you have total control of. Every morning you probably show up and you drive through your lot and do a physical lot walk in a way. And you go look out for holes, you go look out for cars missing plates and deflated balloons and dirty, and you make sure the porter or whoever on that lot, or do a lot party and rearrange it. But we make sure that lot's standing tall for those incoming customers. But what a lot of dealerships don't do is their virtual lot walk. Go online and see how your cars look there. There's so many times that we do a virtual lot walk for a dealership and we see photos that are blurry. We see photos that the car's upside down, or there's fingers in the photos blocking the car. Or I've even seen the wrong thumbnail, a Corvette thumbnail, when it should be a truck. You got to go out there, do your virtual lot walk. Make sure your photos are standing tall. Make sure they're in a good order to drive VDPs and leads. And make sure your comments match up to your descriptions. Again, so many times I've seen a car with a roof in the photo, not in our comments. That is costing your search results. Somebody's looking for a sunroof, you're not there even though that car has it. Or vice versa. We put sunroof in our comments and there's no picture of it. Customer can't validate it's there. They might not waste the time to make the trip if they can't see it. So do your virtual lot walk. Make sure your cars are standing as tall, if not taller, online, because you're going to get 100 times more people online than you would your physical lot. That right there will help your inventory turn. You get more exposure, you're going to get more leads. That, again, will improve your gross at your dealership. Thanks. All right, so we're going to go over what an SRP and a VDP means. These are stats that are on sites like AutoTrader, Cars.com, Car Gurus, and maybe your own website. But what an SRP is a search result page. So basically when the customer does a search on AutoTrader, Cars.com, and they have 25 or 30 cars listed there, if your car is one of those on that page, that's a search result page. Now, some Cars.com will include you even if you're on page 3 or 4 sometimes. Some of those sites do. Now, that's an SRP, that's an opportunity for your customer to see your car. A VDP is when they actually go through that list, see your car, and click on it to get more details. They go to the vehicle detail page. That's your VDPs. The more VDPs you get, the more phone calls, emails, and people that should be showing up on your lot, the more sales. But in order to get that VDP, you need to get the SRPs. So I tell dealers that you need to be looking at these SRPs and VDP stats daily. Your total, how much you're doing for the store, and is it going up or down? And look at it, the individual cars, and see how those cars are reacting to the market. Are we having bad stats? So do we have a bad price, bad photos, bad descriptions? So if you can track and trend out, we could see an example here of what your SRPs and VDPs look like on a weekly basis. So I said look at them daily, but track them weekly. And if you're taking some dips during the week, make an adjustment in your inventory so at the end of the month you're not wondering why business is slow. And business might have been slow because you didn't have the SRPs and VDPs that you had the month prior. There's other things that drive the SRPs and VDPs. I'm going to go that in a deeper dive in another video. I've covered SRPs and what drives those in another video if you want to check that out. But again, look at your SRPs, VDPs daily on your total inventory and individual cars. And then that right there, once you start managing and monitoring those, you're going to maybe be able to make adjustments, which will get you help turn your inventory quicker, which then should drive your gross profit and volume. We're going to go over the turnaround time of your inventory. That turnaround time is so crucial to have success at selling cars fresh. Get to that 60-70% selling in the first 30 days, which drives your gross profit. And that goal should be no more than 3-5 days tops, 3 to 5 days. I know in reality it's probably for you 7, 10 to 14 days. And a lot of that has to change. Your gross profit is driven by selling fresh inventory. And in order to do that, you need these cars photoed, price description, and online. I have dealers that have 150, 200 cars, and they're doing it within about a 72-hour turnaround time. Now again, that's all process driven that we're going to have to manage and monitor. There's some things out there that can help you do this. There's companies out there like Rapid Recon that will track all those things. There's in your vAuto, there's a life cycle summary that you can start tracking and trending those things out. Or you can do something like an Excel spreadsheet, and that's what that dealer does that does it in 72 hours. They have an internal Excel spreadsheet or a Google Drive doc that they have everybody have access to, and they timestamp that car going through those processes. If you can shave off 2 or 3 days of your turnaround time, and you times that by 12 times in a month or a year, that's almost extra 30 days faster these cars in a year going through. That gives you an extra month of selling every year. So if you can just shave off 2 or 3 days of that turnaround time, get cars online, photo, price, description better, you can increase the amount of cars you're selling fresh, which then increases your gross profit. And again, that can then also drive your volume. Hey, we just went over a 5-video series where we went over 5 things that you have total control of to improve your used car operation. Give you a little quick recap. We covered what percentage you're selling by age, what percentage of our solds are by age buckets. We went over knowing your SRPs and knowing your VDPs. Went over last price change, make sure we're addressing cars that we haven't touched in a few weeks. We also went over doing your virtual lot walk and making sure that the cars are standing tall. And the last thing we went over was how fast are we getting them online. I was hinting to 2 things that probably should be on this list, but I didn't, because you don't have total control over. Those aren't things that you can go in on a daily basis and fix. And one of them is appraisals. Appraisals obviously affect our used car inventory. Obviously it affects how our gross is, how our inventory sits, but we can't control it. We can't go in that day and say, hey, I want to do 10 appraisals today and take in 5. We just can't control our appraisals. We also can't control what we are appraising. We can't say, hey, I want some good moving cars coming in today and I'm going to step up on them. So yes, appraisals are very important. One of the things that you have to get better at, increase that closing percentage on appraisals. But again, I just wanted to cover things that you have total control of. The second thing not on that list that is very important is stocking the right cars, going to the auction, seeking them out from private sellers, having the right inventory mix. But again, it's not a lot of our control. We can take a shopping list of 2,000 cars running to the auction, narrow it down to 50 or 100 cars we want to go there and buy, have a strategic game plan put in place of what bids and that we're willing to do. But those cars sometimes slip out from underneath our hands because the bidding's too high and we lose them. And sometimes we come home empty-handed, or we just buy what we can get for the sale because we need 10 cars, so we buy 10 late model program cars. So we don't sometimes have a total control what we stock. And those things are very important, should be on your checklist as far as things that you do improve at your dealership, but again, you don't have total control of it. I hope that helps, and I'll have more tips and videos on how to improve appraisals, how to stock right, but again, I don't think it's something that you could control like those other 5 tips that if you grind those down on a daily basis, those will improve your gross and profit and volume. Thanks.